Konnichiwa, Jaya, nice day desu. So welcome to part 14 in our series in Conversational Japanese. Now in this episode, we will continue down the Japanese alphabet, and for this video, we will be covering column 9. Now before I start, I would like to mention that this will probably be the most complex of all of the Japanese lessons so far. And so I will be taking a little bit of time in this video as well as showing some additional diagrams than the usual letters that I show. And the reason for this difficulty is column 9 covers the letters ra, ri, ru, re, and ro. Now, the difficulty comes from the fact that there are no corresponding English letters that can completely match the sound of these 5 letters. Now, typically what is done is people will use the letters R or L to cover this column, but neither one of those really matches the sound of the letters in column 9. Now, many of you may have heard that native Japanese speakers have a difficulty in pronouncing English, and one of the most difficult parts of the pronunciation is in the differentiation of the letters R and L. And a good example of that was the word lemon. And many English speakers may hear a native Japanese trying to say that word and they think they're pronouncing it remen, but they're in fact pronouncing it lemon, and they're using the letter re from column 9. Now, just like the Japanese may have a difficulty of pronouncing R's and L's because the letters ra, ri, ru, re, ro doesn't sound like either of them, the other way around, English speakers would have the hard time of pronouncing la, ri, ru, re, ro because R's and L's don't exactly match those sounds as well. And a good example of that is the Japanese noodle ramen. Many English speakers will pronounce it ramen using R-A-M-E-N or ramen as the pronunciation, but that is an improper pronunciation because it's using the ra sound instead of the la sound. And so the real pronunciation is ramen. So in this video, I want to go in detail over the ways of pronouncing all 3 different types of sounds, the R's, the L's, and the ra, ri, ru, re, ro sound from column 9. And I want to be able to differentiate between the 3 sounds so that you'll eventually understand the difference and be able to pronounce the letters in column 9 properly. Okay, so to begin, I want to start by pronouncing the column 9 letters if one used the letter R instead of the proper sound, and that would be ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Now, if you were to use the same column 9 and use L's instead, it would be la, li, lu, le, and lo. But the actual sound of the Japanese alphabet for column 9 is ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Now, it may be difficult to differentiate between the 3, so I will try to say one right after the other. Ra, ri, ru, re, ro, ra, ri, ru, re, ro, la, li, lu, le, lo. So as you notice, the Japanese sound of ra, ri, ru, re, ro falls right between the R's and the L's. It's not as hard as the L sound of the L's, and it's not as soft as the R sound of the R's. It's right in the middle. And that is the reason why you can't use ra, ri, ru, re, ro to pronounce the R's and the L sounds. And in the same way, you can't use the R's and the L's to pronounce the sound ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Now, the main difference between the 3 pronunciations mostly comes in the positioning of the tongue. So to best show this, I have made a diagram of the profile of the head. And right down in the bottom there, I have made the side diagram of the inside of the mouth. Now, I apologize in advance for the rough drawing. I'm not particularly an artist or illustrator, but overall, I'm hoping that you can understand those are the 2 front teeth, the floor of the mouth and the roof of the mouth, as well as the tongue. And the difference between the 3 pronunciations mostly comes in the position of the tongue. And so to best illustrate this, let's take the close-up of the mouth now. And once again, I apologize for the rough drawing, but I hope again you understand this diagram. You have the two front teeth, the upper and the lower. You have the floor of the mouth, you have the roof of the mouth, and you have the tongue. And normally, of course, the tongue will be resting at the bottom of your mouth, as you see in this diagram. So now let's see what would happen if you took each one of the three separate pronunciations. Okay, so let's start with the R's. And if you were to take the column 9 pronunciation and use R's, then it would of course sound like ra, ri, ru, re, ro. And if you were to take the diagram of the mouth, you will know that the tongue slightly lifts up and curls up, but doesn't touch any part of the roof or the upper part of your mouth. It just a slight curl up of the tongue will give that sound, so that you could do the ra, ri, ru, re, ro. And once again, there will be no touching of the tongue to any of the upper part of your mouth. Okay, so next, let's see what happens if you try to pronounce the letters in column 9 using the letter L instead of R. Then, of course, the sound will be la, li, lu, le, lo. Okay, so now if we were to look at the side of the mouth again, in this situation, the tongue will be firmly pressed against the back or the bottom of your upper front teeth. And when you pull back on the teeth, then you get that L sound. So again, you firmly press your tongue either at the back of your upper front teeth or the bottom of your upper front teeth. And when you pull away, again, you get the L sound. So now if you were to pronounce column 9 using that action, you will get la, li, lu, le, and lo. Okay, so finally, if we were to pronounce column 9 using the proper pronunciations of la, li, lu, le, lo, as mentioned, it falls between the R's and the L's, so it's harder than ra, ri, ru, re, ro, and it's softer than la, li, lu, le, lo. And once again, it has to do with the position of the tongue. Okay, so if we were to look at the side of the mouth once more, then although the tongue is once again touching the upper part of the mouth, instead of firmly touching either the back or the bottom of your upper teeth, it is now lightly touching the roof of your mouth right behind your upper teeth. So somewhere in the gum area, right behind your upper teeth, you don't firmly touch with your tongue this time, but you lightly touch with your tongue. And when you make a slight flicking movement to forward with your tongue, that gives you the L sound. So once again, instead of L, where you actually firmly press the tongue to the upper part of your teeth, the back of your teeth, this time you lightly flick the upper roof of your mouth with your tongue to make the L sound. Now, to make this easier for some of you, I'm not sure if you remember this in the past or if you've done this in the past, but when I was a kid, of course, I used to play combat or war or soldier or whatever you want to call it, and you would get your plastic machine gun and you would go into the backyard with your friends, and of course you would run around, and of course since your machine gun didn't make any sound, then you would substitute for it and you would do that sort of sound. Okay, well, that's exactly the same sound that you're making here, except that instead of making the constant repeated sound, you just do it once and you get a R sound. R sound. Okay, so again, the difference of R is R, the L is L, and the ra-ri-ru-re-ro is L. And again, so you don't make it strong, you just lightly flick the upper roof of your mouth with your tongue right behind the teeth, and you get that L sound. So I hope you can understand that. And now if you add the a, I, U, E, O to that sound, then you get the da, di, do, de, do. Once again, da, di, du, de, do. Okay, so with that pronunciation settled, let's go over each one of the letters in column 9. So the first letter in column 9 of the Japanese alphabet is the letter ra. And once again, you don't say ra, but a short ra. And the second letter in the column 9 of the Japanese alphabet is the letter ri. So once again, not ri, not li, but ri. And the third letter in column 9 of the Japanese alphabet is the letter ru. And once again, it's not ru, it's not l, but it is ru. And the fourth letter in column 9 of the Japanese alphabet is the letter re. And once again, it's not re, and it's not le, but it is re. And the final letter in column 9 of the Japanese alphabet is the letter ro. And once again, it's not ro, and it's not lo, it's ro. So now if you combine all the letters together, it becomes ra, ri, ru, re, ro. So once again, ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Okay, so I hope you found the pronunciation helpful and not too difficult. It may be awkward and it may make you want to fall back and use the R's or the L's. The only thing I will say to that is if you've ever heard Japanglish and often have found it humorous that many native Japanese cannot pronounce the R's and the L's and mispronounce it, then you understand that you are doing the equivalent counterpart mispronunciation of these letters if you try to use the R's and the L's. So if you don't want to use the counterpart to Japanglish for English Japanese, then I would go back to the proper pronunciation by using rariruredo and working on the proper tongue placement for pronouncing those letters. And if you successfully get used to pronouncing rariruredo, then you'll probably be ahead of a lot of people who are trying to learn conversational Japanese, at least in the pronunciation side. So then you won't end up saying ramen, but you will say ramen. You won't say Naruto, you will say Naruto. You won't say sayonara, you will say sayonara. And you won't say arigato, you'll say arigato. And so it is crucial that you get used to that sound. And I hope you do practice and get used to that sound, because we will be using these letters in a lot of the words in the future. Anyway, I hope you found this episode of Conversational Japanese useful, and I hope it wasn't too awkward. I hope you also practice and get used to pronouncing rarirurero. We thank you once again for watching the video. It's always a pleasure making these for you, and I hope you continue with us down this adventure for conversational Japanese. We're almost at the end of the alphabet. We have one more column and then one more letter to do, so I'll do it in the next video. And then we could go on to some more complex phrases and words. Anyway, thank you very much once again. If you have any comments, please post them in the comments section below. And until the next conversational Japanese video, we wish you all the best. And as always, Jaya, nice day, everyone.